Hi everyone, I'm Matt Garn. I'm the founder here at Founder Co. And today in this video, we're going to be talking about doing a book review of The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. So without further ado, let's get into it. So if you don't know who Simon Sinek became really big in 2009 when he gave his TED Talk about what Start With Why and his 3 rings of Start With Why. He wrote a book later about it, and he's kind of gone off from there, but he really started out as like an ad in the ad agencies and working with there, and then he ended up giving his TED Talk where he became more of a motivational speaker from there. Now he's written a couple other books to Start With Why, Leaders Eat Last, and now he's written Infinite Game, which just came out recently. And this one was really, really good. I really personally enjoyed this book, and we're going to go over kind of the overview, the pros, and the cons of this book. Now, the overview of this book is kind of like, it's titled The Infinite Game, obviously, and it really goes about how you should be thinking about your business or organization in an infinite way, not a finite game. And I think as business leaders, a lot of business leaders, even at the public companies, it doesn't matter what size company you are, business can't be thought of as like a win-loss strategy, because even if you you get hit by a bus or whatever, or if you leave the company still goes on. It's most likely going to be going on without you. And that's why we should be thinking, in terms of like causes, and really should be talking about causes rather than like win-loss, like were we successful or not, because that's putting like this weird like temporary goal on things and makes you think too short-sighted rather than long-sighted. So when bad things happen, hence like the coronavirus or anything like that, it really can help you get through these like tough stretches because you're so cause-driven. And that's what Simon Sinek talks about. He related more things to 2008 in this book and how the recession hit, and actually how some of the organizations got through that because the way they thought through things in an infinite way. There's a lot of different points I could bring up that would be, a pro of why this book is a really good one, because overall I really loved reading this book. It was it was a page turner in reality, which was awesome. It's a good sign. It was a good book. And the first one, I think it validated for me personally, and I think it helps me think through founders and entrepreneurship in general, is that you have to be thinking infinitely, not in a like short-term mindset. And he really proved that out, and with examples of how businesses, even mostly on the public stage, and how they should be like, how business leaders, when they think infinitely, the business can almost go through anything. He brings up about Apple and how like Apple's kind of gone through some troubles, and they talk about the leadership changes between like Steve Jobs and different leaders they've had at Apple. And really like how that strategy and being like this cause-driven functionality is really important to their business and actually makes them why they're successful. The second point Simon talks a lot about is being cause-driven versus like this really short-term goal-driven. And it's kind of tied to that first point I just talked about, but I think just having this cause-driven mentality where you create such a lofty cause, like a cause that's so freaking important to the world. And you can set goals around that cause they're just completely unachievable. But as a company, as an organization, you're trying to strive towards them as much as possible. And that can be such a fight. Like it kind of gives you a fighter's chance. It gives you something to fight for. And I think if you're building a team, especially if you want to build like just amazing elite talent with a team, talent wants to be like, really, people in general just want to be around causes that are so big and so lofty and feel like they're being impactful in the world. So if your company or organization can build a cause or like create a cause or rally around a cause, honestly, that is so important to the world that everyone can rally around it and work those long hours and really just put everything they got into it, that can cause a lot of good things to happen in your company. And Simon goes through why that's so important. Now, the third point I'll bring up isn't necessarily the content of the book. It's more about actually just like the way you receive it. And that is, if you're an audiobook listener, this book's actually a really good format for audiobooks because Simon himself actually reads it. And if Simon has a good reading voice, honestly, which is weird, but it's not, or semi-weird. But it's a really good audiobook, and I actually mostly listened to it as an audiobook and kind of took snippets as I went. But if you're looking for a good audiobook or like to listen rather than read, this is a really great option as an audiobook. Okay, let's go through the cons of this book, and there wasn't too many, but they're just slightly minor. And the first one I'll go over is that this book I'm not sure why, I kind of understand why in some ways, but there's a couple points where I was like, ooh, that might be slightly too political for me, but he did get a little political in some of his points, but that's okay. I understood why he did it, but just be on the lookout if you're reading this book. There's a couple points where like that might make you, they're kind of head scratchers at the first reading them, I guess. Now the second con would be that this book does get slightly repetitive at times, but it wasn't too bad. This book is actually probably my favorite book out of all the Simon Sinek books, just because it wasn't as repetitive as some of his other books have been. I thought his examples were really, really good. Not sometimes I kind of question his examples, but I think this book, the examples made tons of sense to me, and maybe that's just the topic he chose on this one. But I thought the content of this book was really good. It was a page turner, or it listened really flowlessly for me, and didn't have any big issues. So I actually got through it in about a week and a half, just driving around my car and no problems. I just kept wanting to listen to it. So overall, I thought The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek was a fantastic book. It's definitely probably my top 10% of like books to read as an entrepreneur, as a founder, just because it helps you kind of be cause driven rather than like this like short-term sighted and then just thinking about like tomorrow or the next like quarter. It's a really good book for just thinking about like, why am I passionate about what we're doing, and is my company actually focused on the right things? So if you're looking for a good audiobook, especially because this audiobook was fantastic, like I mentioned, definitely get this book. And if you're looking for sort of good read that's me thinking, or we want to like kind of think through like, hey, why is my company not really going as far as it should be, or we don't feel like we're cause driven, this book can be a really great start for getting you going. So definitely recommend it and check it out. You can check it out through the links below, or check it out anywhere you get your books.